Ta-da! Hello everybody. Today I'm going to show you how you could use your Nikon 1J4 mirrorless camera in the context of using manual lenses and CMount lenses to be exact. Now, while this video is geared towards the Nikon 1J4 model, you can use it for other Nikon 1 cameras as well. They probably have similar menus and controls, but yeah, some things will be a little bit different. Okay, so one of the reasons why I got the Nikon 1J4 is to use Cine-Nikkor lenses, because the tiny sensor covers about the same area as the 16mm format. Now you have to pardon me today in this video because I only had 5 hours of sleep. So let's get cracking. Okay, I'm gonna show you how you could mount CMount lenses to your adapter. They're basically screw-in adapters, and I got this one from eBay, cheap Chinese seller. So when you mount your lens, you'll probably notice that this informative display may be a little bit off to the left, a little bit off to the right, or completely underneath. One thing that you have to understand about CMount lenses is, at least from what I've seen, is the thread is actually spring-loaded. You can push this down and turn the screw. See? Did you hear a notable click? So you could reorient your lens, or lens mount for that matter, and that will help you see things better. Now you have to be careful when mounting your lens. You want it to be screwed in securely. So when I got this thing, the helicoids were seized, which is very common with Cine-Nikkors as far as I could see, so far as I could remember. So I overhauled it, and now it's so smooth. Okay, so let's wake up the camera. And okay, so one thing that I want you to understand is that everything is fully manual. So when you go to the menu, you should be in manual mode, because that's the only mode that the Nikon 1J4 will accept it, or probably most other Nikon 1 cameras for that matter. And then your metering has to be center weighted or spot. I don't know if spot actually works, but you know, I use center weighted. And you can only shoot in manual mode. And hold on, the monitor is too bright, you guys can't see it. So let's go to display brightness. Okay, let's tone it down to 0. Then let's go back. Okay, so like I mentioned previously, you can only shoot in manual mode. So right now when it says aperture, it basically is just saying that, you know, click right on the D-pad to access aperture. That is pointless because you really cannot set your aperture, to be honest. So let's go back to shutter speed, and this is how you could set your shutter speed with a Nikon 1J4. Now, there's something that you should understand about using Nikon 1 cameras with manual lenses is the exposure you see on the LCD screen isn't the same exposure that you'll get in your photos. So take a look at this. I'm going to take a picture. See? It's all dark because the metering is the meter is showing that it's underexposed. So what you want to do is lower your shutter speed until, gets to this point, and then see, now you get a better exposure. See? So that kind of sucks actually, but you'll have to live with it. Okay, so at least with the Nikon 1J4, this exposure readout is all over to the left, which is very handy, unlike some earlier ones. I'm not sure about the Nikon 1J5 or the Nikon 1V3, which is their top of the line Nikon 1 camera. They never were a Nikon 1J V4. It ended with a V3, unfortunately. So as you can see, focusing is manual, and there's no focus peaking, no electronic rangefinder, and you cannot even zoom. Oops. You cannot even zoom in to your shit. Oops. Sorry, I just sweared. I just took a couple of photos by clicking on the this thing. So where were we? So there's no focus peaking, no focus magnification, no focus aids, and that's that's a problem actually, especially when you're shooting outdoors, because if the sun is very bright, it can be very difficult to see the LCD, and the resolution of the LCD isn't really very high, so you can't really tell if something's in focus or not. So what I do is open the aperture, the iris, all the way to its widest f-stop, so I could see a wider depth of field. Oops. And focus like that. And then if I think the thing's in focus, I would stop it down to where I wanted it to be, preferably to a smaller f-stop, so I get more things in focus, and take my exposure. Okay, so one more thing that you have to realize about Cine lenses is, if I'm not mistaken, all of them are of the preset iris type. I don't think that there's any that have any automatic irises, because it would probably be pointless, and so when calibrating your focus, you have to calibrate it to your adapter, because we don't get 16mm film cameras no more. So it's kind of pointless. No, sorry, not film cameras, but film cassettes anymore. And and it's not really practical to develop them. Although some services do allow developing of 8mm Vidicon and 16mm, it's just too expensive to develop a roll of movie film just for the sake of reviewing for richardhall.com. So yeah, and that is the reason why I calibrated the focus of this lens to work well with this adapter and this camera in particular, which is kind of fine because I don't really care for shooting with film on this thing, because like I just mentioned before, it's really pointless. Okay, so another reason for using CMount lenses on the Nikon 1J4 is, as you can see, the lens and the body, together with the body, they handle very well. I'm gonna show you something. Hold on for a while. Let me get my tiny lens. Oops. So the D-mount lenses are tinier. There you go. These were made for 8mm cameras. Compared to the C-mount lenses, the D-mount lenses are tiny. Now, you could mount this to the Nikon 1 with the proper adapter, but it's pointless. One, because you'll get vignetting, which is quite heavy, of the mechanical type, which means the exit pupil, the image projected from it, doesn't really cover the whole. Sorry, just turned off the camera. It won't cover the whole area of the sensor of the Nikon 1, and it's around like this. Okay, when you mount it, that won't give you the proper flange distance, and that's going to be a problem because you couldn't focus all the way to infinity. Now, this is an 8mm camera. 8mm motion picture camera. As you can see, it mounts perfectly. And if you take a look at the aperture, there's not a lot of distance between the lens and the plane of the film, the capturing plane. There's probably around 5 or 6 mil between this and the rear. So the Nikon 1 won't give you that. Now, if you want to shoot with D-mount lenses, you'll have to purchase the Pentax Q. That is a camera for shooting with D-mount lenses. Now let's go back to the Nikon 1J4. Okay, this video is getting too long, but we're almost there. So where were we? Display. I usually Set this to grid display off because you don't want your view to be cluttered. And when you're shooting, you just want simple, so you don't get a lot of things in your display. On playback, yes, on, you want to be able to see what you just captured, and basic info. You, when you select detailed info, you'll see histograms and whatever, and the picture will be tiny, so it's kind of pointless. And silent photography, you want it to be on, or else you'll get that electronic shutter sound. It's basically just recorded, and that will alert people to what you're doing. So auto power off, I set it to 1 minute. Touch screen controls, enable, because that's convenient. Shutter exposure, this doesn't do much. Shutter button AE lock. Oh yeah, you want this to be on so you can focus and recompose, and your exposure stays the same as expected. Now HDMI device control, I don't know what this does, to be honest. Flicker reduction, I don't care, I don't shoot video. Time and zone, language, automatic rotation. Okay, so slot empty release, I set it to on, so when I'm repairing lenses, I could use the camera. So let's go to this menu. So high ISO noise reduction, I want it to be off. It doesn't matter when you're shooting raw. And white balance auto, ISO sensitivity, picture control, I set it to neutral because I don't want any processing. It doesn't matter again when you're shooting raw. Custom picture control, okay, doesn't really matter again when you're shooting raw. High ISO noise reduction doesn't matter when shooting raw. And that's it. Movies, let's not go there. And one thing about the Nikon J4 is if you want to change your automatic exposure mode or set to manual, you have to go to this camera C, creative whatever menu, and I don't know what this thing is. Let's see. I don't know, must be a mode for hipsters. So okay, so there's HDR, easy panorama, soft, miniature, selective, toy camera. You can't use this, you can't use this, you can't use this. You can only use this when shooting with manual lenses. And reset shooting options, I don't want to touch that now. So metering, again, you want it to be spot. Color space, Adobe auto delighting off. Long exposure noise reduction off. Again, doesn't really matter when you're shooting raw. Focus mode, manual focus. Let's do this. This is basically for the focus aid, but I don't think it does anything, to be honest. Built-in AF assist. Again, I think this is for the lamp. I usually turn it off, it's pointless anyway. Flash control. Let's try manual. Underwater photography. Okay, I think that's just it. Slideshow, image review on, of course, because that's the only way you could confirm if your shot is in focus. Rotate tall, Wi-Fi upload, project, delighting. I think this is just to show information. This is how you could crop and resize your photos. Face priority zoom. So okay, when you have this, you can actually zoom into the face, if I'm not mistaken, when you're viewing your photos. I think that's just it, I guess. Now, if you want to use an external strobe for this, you won't be able to because there's no hot shoe connection here, but you could trigger your flash remotely. Now what you could do is point this to the ceiling or point it to yourself and set the flash's power to its weakest, so it won't really add too much to your exposure, and then use that to trigger your flash's optical slide. So where are we? Okay, I think that's just it. I think it's time to wrap up this video. So okay, see you guys next time. Bye bye.